at war. And I decided to just go over each of them in case anybody has forgotten. Not only did we have 300,000 people crossing the border in December alone, we've got wars that we all are familiar with in the Middle East and in Europe. Iran's proxies in Gaza, Lebanon, and Yemen attacking Israel. The Houthis actually attacking us directly, in addition to shutting down, where they can, commerce in the Red Sea. Iranian proxies attacking us, our soldiers, in Iraq and in Syria. Russia stepping up missile attacks in Ukraine while we were gone. And China, of course, watching all of this, concerned about next year's election in Taiwan. So make no mistake about it, this is the most serious international situation we have faced since the Berlin Wall came down. We need to pass a supplemental. There needs to be a strong border provision part of it, and I'm confident James Lankford is the best one to deal with this, and he's been, in addition to communicating with all of us during the holidays, consistently involved in this for quite some time, and our hope is that we'll get an outcome and get it soon. Obviously, we're going to have to pass a CR as well. I have no idea yet. It'll be up to the Speaker and the Majority Leader to determine the length of the CR.
We all know now that in the month of December, the Biden border crisis hit its absolute low point. And by low point, I mean the most ever people apprehended illegally trying to come across the southern border in the month of December. It was the worst month on record, and in December had the worst day on record. And now it's been 3 consecutive record years in terms of number of people apprehended. And of course, that does not count all the hundreds of thousands of gotaways that are also part of that illegal surge of illegal immigration at our southern border. As you know, we've had a lot of discussions around this for some time. We, back in November, had Senators Lankford, Cotton, and Tillis put forward a set of policy proposals to deal with the southern border. It honestly wasn't until until just recently, actually, December, that Democrats realized that we were serious and were willing to sit down and talk about it. But I don't think the American people have any confidence that the Democrats are going to be able to solve this. It's clear President Biden has the legal authority today. He could enforce our law at the southern border. He's chosen, in his administration, opted not to do it. And we have, as I said, a record number of people. In fact, if 300,000 in the month of December is pretty much equivalent to the 2017 entire year. There were about 300,000 in the entire year in 2017. We had that just in the month of December. And of course, we all know that represents not just people who are coming here for a better life, but people who figured out that the southern border is a portal to get into the United States, including record numbers of people on the terrorist watch list, convicted criminals, gang members, and clearly, obviously, a lot of cartels who are trying to use our southern border as a way to get drugs and human trafficking and weapons into this country. So it's got to be dealt with. It's got to be dealt with now, and it's got to be dealt with in the context of the national security package that is under consideration here in the Congress. So my hope would be that the Democrats will come to the conclusion that the only way you solve this problem is with serious, meaningful policy changes that reduce the flow and regain operational control of the southern border. Absent that, there is not going to be a package that passes here. So Senator Lankford is on the lead on this, as the leader pointed out, doing a great job, and our members stand united behind him in getting strong, meaningful, serious policy reforms that will get the southern border under control.
Well, there is only one word to describe what Joe Biden and the Democrats have done at the southern border, and that word is surrender. They have surrendered to the cartels, to the drug dealers, to the terror suspects. And this picture was from 3 weeks ago. The spigot is still wide open. All you need to do is turn on the evening news and you'll see people continuing to flood across the border. Families, communities, not safe, not secure because of this surrender. And it's a surrender to illegal immigrants coming from 150 different countries. 300,000 in the last month alone. Record-shattering numbers. Daily records, weekly records, monthly records, and a record for the entire year. But it's really no surprise when you think what they are being offered to come here illegally. Free entry, free plane flights, free hotel rooms. Well, maybe free to them, but the American taxpayers are paying for it. The American taxpayers are fed up. Communities all across the country are being overwhelmed and overrun. And these illegal immigrants coming are bringing the fentanyl that is killing hundreds of Americans every single day. Democrats won't lift a finger to help. No. They want to just wave them all through. But Republicans want to stop them in their tracks and send them back. The way to do that is we have to stop the incentives, which continue to act like a magnet, bringing people here, and allow the Border Patrol to do their job, which is to enforce the law, to secure the border, and to keep the homeland safe.
I just returned from a delegation trip overseas, and the delegation and I traveled to Egypt, to Israel, to Qatar, and to Bahrain. And my mission with this delegation was clear. It was to use full congressional leverage to bring our American hostages home. Currently, we have 6 Americans that are being held in Gaza by Hamas. And we must remember that Hamas killed over 30 American citizens during their October 7th terror attacks in Israel. So our message was very clear to these leaders that they must work with the United States and Israel to bring these hostages home. We were able to visit Kibbutz Nir Oz, which was a kibbutz that I had visited in 2014, and it was a stark contrast from the first time I visited. A tranquil community filled with peace activists now is a barren wasteland with burned out homes and the remnants of shards of glass, doors blown in by grenades and by RPGs. Folks, Americans were taken. They must come home, and every second matters.
Well, I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year and hope 2024 is good for all of us and for your families. The dispiriting thing about 2024 is we're back here for the first week, and Senator Schumer has chosen to make 2024, the first week, the same as way we ended 2023, doing nothing of substance when we have so many weighty topics in front of us. Certainly, 302,000 at the border in December, the highest month ever, is something that we could be dealing with right now today if we could get cooperation. James Lankford is working hard and individually reaching out. I salute him and hope that he is successful. We are hoping for that. We have fentanyl streaming into this country. The border crisis is getting worse and worse. I thought to myself, why did we have the highest month in December? Because the cartels are paying attention, and they know that we as Republicans are taking a hard line on changing our immigration policies, and that's causing them to flood in before the gates close. And so I would also say the other thing in this new year that Senator Schumer could be dealing with as a member of the Appropriations Committee are our spending bills. We're running out of time. There's 2 dates to remember that Senator Collins reminded us at lunch. July 27th, the Appropriations Committee passed every single bill out of committee. The leader had time from that point on to consider any of those. We passed the first ones in June. November 1st was the date at which we passed the only 3 bills that we've passed. And we had another 2 months then to be considered. So he's not doing his job. He's not running the government on the spending front, really on any front, but the spending front most particularly to make sure that we get back to regular order, that we control our spending, that we try to rein it in, that we've been advocating for. So I'm here to say we should be focusing on these things instead of having votes being canceled like they are today because there's not enough people here. We should be focusing on the things, immigration and the supplemental and our spending bills.
In October, I took a trip to the southern border, McAllen, Texas, down to the Ursula Processing Center. And I was told by Border Patrol agents there were 3 Syrian men that had been apprehended the night before. They were there at the Ursula Processing Center. I asked to see them. Then I asked the question, how did they get here? I said, well, most likely they flew from the Middle East to somewhere in South America and then came up through Central America, through Mexico to our southern border. In December, I visited with leaders from the country of Colombia. They told me about a daily Turkish Airlines flight from Istanbul to Bogota. Go on kayak yourself, do a quick search. You can get a flight for $1,000 from Istanbul to Bogota. They've been tracking these flights and found that some of the passengers that arrive in Bogota are on the terror watch list. But this is how, one way, they're coming into our country, into South America, and then up through Central America, up through Mexico. Where are many of those passengers headed? They're headed to our southern border. They're headed into our country. I met with their Vice Minister of Defense of Colombia. He's deeply concerned that terrorists from the Middle East and Africa are using Colombia as a stop along their way to our southern border. If leaders in Colombia, leaders across the world are concerned about our wide open southern border, why isn't Joe Biden and the Senate Democrats sharing that same concern? Under President Trump, we had policies that discouraged, disincentivized people from coming across the southern border. President Biden and Senate Democrats have done nothing to fix this. They're complicit. They've only made it worse. It is time to make these policy changes. It's urgent. The time is now.
Peter McConnell. You had argued after voting to acquit the former president that presidents are not immune from prosecution. Is that still your view?
Well, my view of the presidential race is that I choose not to get involved in it and comment about any of the people running for the Republican nomination.
Leader McConnell, thank you. You talk about the need for a CR here. Explain operationally, despite there being a top line, how it's so challenging to get something done by the end of next week. But secondarily, and perhaps more importantly, are you and Speaker Johnson not aligned on this? I mean, he has said he doesn't want to do a CR. You say that's the only way out of this mess right now in the next week.
Well, they have a top-line agreement, Schumer and the Speaker. In the meantime, we need to prevent a government shutdown. And so the obvious question is, how long does the CR need to be? And that'll be up to the majority leader and the Speaker to determine the length of the CR. But the Senate, the simplest things take a week in the Senate. So I think frequently the House doesn't understand how long it takes to get something through the Senate. Alex?
In light of the anniversary of January 6th, is it accurate to characterize individuals convicted and incarcerated for January 6th related crimes, to characterize them as hostages? Is that accurate?
Well, let me say this about January 6th. I had remarks that I made on February 13th of 21 about how I felt about January 6th. I recently reread it. I stand by what I said.
Secretary Austin, do you believe he should resign? Leader McConnell? That's kind of his news story. And then took, you got your answer. Yeah, that's